Fair warning, I am about to butcher a metric ton of names in this video, since Vocaloid is a Japanese first project and Fairy is a Belarusian artist, so just guys, please be patient with me, I'm trying here. Hey guys, it's been a really long time. Reason for this really just being I've been juggling a lot with school, work, volunteering, and so on. But I am still alive, if barely, but still alive. Overworked as I am, I'm sure you guys can all relate to really listen to niche music you really wouldn't otherwise listen to on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Music, YouTube Music. Ugh. Point being, I've gotten back into a lot of music I just can't talk to people about without them just going, what in the world are you talking about? So, I'm here to ramble in about the one place I can be a gremlin without being judged as harshly. I will say this video is going to be split into two parts because this script turned out way longer than I thought it was going to be, and I have other videos down the pipeline, so there's going to be a bit of a split here. This first part is going to cover the background and the first few songs in the PAFL album part 1, and the second video will cover the rest of the songs currently on Fairy's channel related to PAFL. So, let's get the elephant out of the room first. You're either here because you've listened to Fairy and know about their, in my opinion, awe-inspiring Vocaloid work, or you stumbled in here and went, Fairy? Who? Either way, I'm here to introduce you to a Google Doc they made themselves and the wild ride it brought me on in terms of story building for these songs I've cherished for the better part of 5 years now. First, for those unaware, I want to go over the basics for those out of the loop really quick. Vocaloid is a synthesizer program that can essentially create music with synthetic vocals. While, yes, this can be jarring for those who don't know what it is, people who enjoy Vocaloid music love the synth and the pace that just can't be gained by a person next to a mic. For those of you that are vaguely familiar with this concept but don't know why, think Kagami and Rin and Len, Big Al, and of course, famously Hatsune Miku. The Vocaloid artists used in Fairy's projects mostly are Big Al, Yuzuki Yukari, V-Flower, Gumi English, Kyo, and Nekamura Airo. Fairy is, in their own words, a hobbyist music producer with Vocaloid. Not much online about them is really easy to find other than the fact that they're from Belarus and they make English and Russian Vocaloid music. In the description for most, if not all, of Fairy songs in the PAFL, or Parties Are for Losers universe, is a Google Docs link that'll give the reader an easy way to read the plot ahead on. Today isn't going to be a breakdown like the last few videos I made on Shawnee. Watch this as well. I think they're great. But more of an abridged rundown of the doc left to us by Fairy. I will also have the document linked in the description as well as Fairy themselves, so please check both out, they're amazing. I love Fairy. We'll be going in order of the doc itself and the way it's set up, and then afterwards we're going to do a full timeline. So, strap in guys, for a ride down a rabbit hole that I've looked at since I was a kid. Fairy opens up with a statement that their story was almost entirely based on the movie Stalker, which I haven't personally watched, but given similarities that I can be found from cursory glance, yeah, I see it. Then afterwards, Fairy sets up with the world building, which, to recap, says that the story takes place in an Eastern European city very close to an area called the Anomalous Zone, a huge area that the music video for The Mill shows us as desolate and ruined, with features such as floating rocks, rust, and a lot of green that's about the size of a small country, according to Fairy. This zone is here due to a catastrophe that took place about 50 years prior to us being introduced to the story. In the words of Fairy, nobody really knows how the zone works. Some even believe it has a life of its own. One thing is for certain though, people are fascinated by it. A profession started gaining popularity over the years due to this zone. Stalkers, who get people illegally into and only sometimes out of the zone, which caused a minor, major, extreme problem. People who have been exposed to the zone for long periods of time give birth to children that have some form of genetic mutation, from extreme ones to mild ones. On the edge of the zone, there's a facility that gets most of the funding for the city. Mutants that are of particular interest to scientific research or simply deemed too dangerous are taken to the facility in this world. Because, you know, sheltering mutants and illegal anomalies is, well, illegal. Because being caged to be a lab monkey is more ethical. Right? Alright. There are pictures with this one. So we're going to move around some stuff real quick. So let's just... There. Now, characters. There are 7. First, Yura. Yura is a high schooler who grew up in a poor family. His mother being a prostitute, he was very detached in relationship to her. This seems to have had an effect on his upbringing, because, end quote, Yura spends most of his time partying and indulging in life's not-so-wholesome pleasures. While being rather smart, he doesn't see much point in studying since his family can't afford to pay for a higher education, end quote. Yura works as a math tutor for another character in the story, Sanya, to make his family some supplemental income, even starting training to become a stalker, since, due to its danger, it pays really well. Sanya is the daughter to a now dead renowned stalker, which, if you have been paying attention, caused some minor problems, mainly albinism. Now, as we'll see, an extremely mild case of this. With this world's disdain against stalkers, it proves to put Sanya in the target for some bullying. Her brother had become extremely overbearing as a result of this, leading to them being slightly estranged in a way. Yura, being her tutor, brought what her brother had thought was a bad influence into her life, as Sanya became transfixed with the ways that Yura lived, his lifestyle. Sergei. Sergei is Sanya's overprotective brother. He worked as a stalker in his teens and 20s, but abruptly stopped after a mission made him think twice about the fact that if he died, Sanya would be alone. He hired Yura to tutor Sanya, but after this proved a bad idea, that was cut rather short. He also trained Yura, due to his natural talent as a stalker. He actively frowns upon Sanya and Yura hanging out, but at this point he realizes he can't really do anything to stop it. So he just kind of has to let it happen and mitigate damage as much as possible. He's in a relationship with another character in the story named Olya. KT. KT, or Katya, is a mutant that escaped the research facility. Her mutation is a bit more severe than Sanya's. Her body grows in excess of flesh when she is under stress, which she can only really kind of control. So she tries to keep it under wraps as often as she can. This tissue has to be removed manually, so she has hardened scars on her hands and legs. When her limbs are returned to normal, they aren't sensitive at all, according to Fairy. The most important thing I'd like to quote from this is, quote, "Due to having to almost constantly keep her emotions in check, KT has a higher stress ceiling than most people, as well as being inherently high in emotional intelligence. She's very optimistic about experiencing the world outside and meeting her new friends." Which is remarkable given the circumstances, and both a blessing and a curse. Anya. Yura's sister, feeling as though living in a poor family gives her little opportunity in life, but instead wants to fight against that notion and go against the grain. She hates her brother's hedonistic view on the world and doesn't talk to her mother at all. Yura introduced her to Olya, and over time she had grown a close attachment to her, and regularly she would run away from home to go to hang out at Olya's. Speaking of which, Olya. Olya is a very mysterious woman. Not much is really known about her other than she works in an office and lives by herself. She will sometimes give Yura a lift to hang at Sergei's, but that doesn't really mean much. At first it may seem like she only tolerates Anya, but she truly does enjoy having her around the house. Dimitri. Dimitri is a mutant on the run from the facility, like KT, with the powers of telekinesis. One weakness of his is that he has trouble manipulating objects that people are holding, which means if he is held down, he'll have a lot of trouble. For now, that's our cast. Let's get ourselves into the music videos themselves. This first entry starts near the end of summer. Yura is on one of his outings to an underground party and notices something. A girl spilled her drink on a small-time gang leader, and for a second Yura is startled by the look at the girl's eyes before Sanya and her trusty baseball bat come in to stop the commotion. This breaks Yura out of his fear and joins in the fighting, and the party goes, quote, on and on. After the fighting, the girl and Yura make acquaintances. It's Katie. Since Sanya or Yura can't let her into their living situation, they make a small hideaway for her where they can bring her essentials like food and water. Over the span of about 2 weeks or so, Yura and Katya develop a sibling-like relationship. Sergei notices while getting Sanya home one day that there are markings on KT's arms. And Sergei, being very familiar with mutants, being an ex-stalker, immediately pins KT as a mutant. Later, Yura has a breakdown during one of the parties, ending in him being comforted by KT in the bathroom. The next day, it's revealed that Sergei had called the authorities on Katya. In an attempt to keep herself safe, she releases her power. She's eventually caught and brought back to the research facility. This video features something interesting, since, in Fairy's words, this video could be split into 2 parts. The start has us in the quote-unquote present, which is about 2 or so weeks after the incident in parties. Yura is greeted by Sanya, who ran home to see him before he goes off on his first mission into the zone. We are then flashback to a year prior where Sanya mustered the courage to ask Yoda to go to a party with him for the first time. Yoda sneaks Sanya out at night to go to the party, and they end up there as planned. But when Sanya gets separated from Yoda and finds him again, he's flirting with a girl. And despite denying liking Yoda, this upsets Sanya, and she then goes back to kick trash and vent. She's then startled by Yoda coming out to have a smoke break, where he apologizes for upsetting her and startling her. Where Sanya is surprised by Yoda joining in her outburst, grabbing a baseball bat and claiming, "You know, I really hate this town." This actually led to the pair growing closer in the end, paradoxically. Then we end up where the party's left off again. Watching KT get taken away makes Yoda somewhat snap, where his attitude of, well, there's no point in really trying, turns into, oh, if I don't try, no one else will. And he becomes set on saving KT. Bringing us back to the first part of the video, where Sanya wants to say something that she might regret. And Yoda responds with being confident that he will come back alive, and gives Sanya his jacket before leaving. At around the same time frame as parties, we cut to a different part of the city. Anya, having been fixated on Olya, has begun stalking her pseudo-motherly, sisterly aunt. It's aunt. Looking back at the thing, it's aunt figure. This eventually goes poorly as she is harassed by some thugs in an alleyway in one of these stalking escapades. She is then saved by Dimitri, who is promptly beaten into the dirt in one of the funniest scenes in the video, in my opinion. Dima refuses an ambulance and so is fixed up at Olya's house. Following this event, Dimitri is pretty much living out of Olya's house, almost like Anya had been. At one point while Dima and Anya were hanging out, Dima suggests to Anya that she should run away from the city if she hates it so much. But suddenly, she is having second thought. A few days after the PAFL accident in the timeline, Olya is spending time at Sergei's place when he vents to Olya about the party's incident. Olya doesn't say anything to Sergei, but takes out a picture of Katie's jacket hanging in Sanya's room, saying that she could give it away to someone instead of wasting it, implying that she was going to show the picture to Dima. The picture, after being shown to Dima, sets off an emotional reaction, giving into his telekinesis and activating it. Where Olya is just like, okay, just drop the act, man. Dima takes the phone, assuming that Olya is calling the police, but she's just texting Sergei about the KT jacket selling deal, so the tension dropped. But the fact that KT was in prison distresses Dima. Wonder why? Guess we'll never know. Alright guys, as I've mentioned, I'm going to be making this a 2-video deal again, but hey, I'm only halfway through this document and it's already a 7.5 page script, which is a lot right now. I do want to thank you guys for all the love, support, and patience on my absence over the summer. I spent a lot of time working to provide for myself, so I had to step away from videos for a while. But now that I'm back into the steady rhythm, I'm going to be trying to upload the best I can. It'll still be a bit sporadic, so still bear with me. I don't really have a schedule for this thing, guys. But you guys know the drill. Please like, share, subscribe, all the good stuff if you enjoyed this video. If not, you don't have to. It's not, like, required. My current goal for the channel is to hit eligibility for monetization by the end of my school year in May. I'll pull up the analytics I'm trying to hit here, but anyways, enough about me, guys. You guys stay awesome, drive safe, and have a good time. Until next time, this is Frost, or Marshall, signing off. Good luck.